The girl the village sold in silence. They say every village has a story it doesn't like to remember, a story whispered only when the night is quiet and guilt has nowhere to hide. So before this story begins, let me ask you something gently. If you have ever loved a child, if you have ever called a daughter your own, listen carefully, because this is not just a story, it is a wound, and if at any moment your heart feels heavy while listening, do not turn away. Stay with it till the end, and when it is over, remember to like, share, and subscribe, not for me, but so this story reaches someone who still has time to choose better. In the quiet village of Aduf, mornings always arrive the same way, with a tired rooster crowing into pale dawn, smoke rising slowly from cracked mud kitchens, and women stepping barefoot onto cold earth with buckets balanced on their heads. But there was a time when one sound always came before the rest, a small voice answering to the name Morayo, called by her mother, echoed by her grandmother, chased by children who knew her laughter better than their own shadows. Morayo was only 14 years old, but life had already taught her lessons meant for grown people. Her father had died when she was 7, not from sickness and not from war, but from hunger mixed with shame, a proud farmer whose land stopped yielding crops when the rains failed, whose debts grew louder than his prayers, until one night he walked into the forest and never returned, and from that day, Morayo learned that sometimes fathers disappear and children are left to grow up overnight. Her mother worked until her back bent and her hands cracked, selling firewood, washing clothes that were not hers, carrying loads that made her wince, yet poverty still slept on their mat. Some nights Morayo lied and said she had eaten already so her younger brother could swallow one more spoon. Some mornings she fetched water before the sun rose and hurried to school with aching feet, because school was the only place where she felt light, where chalk dust felt like hope, where a teacher once looked at her exercise book and said her handwriting was beautiful and she would go far, words Morayo kept like a secret prayer pressed to her chest. But in villages like Aduf, dreams are fragile things, easily traded for food, and one evening a black car arrived raising dust and curiosity. Children chased it laughing, elders gathered, and inside it sat Chief Bamedil from the city, a man with gold on his fingers and authority in his voice, a man who did not come looking for love, only for a wife. And when his eyes settled on Morayo, something in the air broke. That night Morayo heard her mother crying, whispering that she did not want to do this but did not know how else to survive. The money offered could fix the roof, feed mouths, send the younger child to school. And Morayo sat quietly in the corner, learning that sometimes a child's silence is mistaken for consent. The wedding came quickly, too quickly for a child to understand. Morayo's wrapper was heavy, the beads cold against her skin, drums beat loudly but her heart beat louder. People smiled and said she was lucky, that she had escaped poverty, that she would eat well now, but Morayo felt like she was being lowered into a grave while everyone danced above her. That night in a stranger's house she cried into a pillow that smelled unfamiliar, and the girl she used to be ended there. Days bled into months. Morayo stopped smiling, stopped singing, stopped writing. School became a memory she was not allowed to touch again. She was told she was a woman now and women stayed indoors. At night she stared at the ceiling and remembered the words "you will go far," wondering how far a bird can fly with broken wings. Some nights her body hurt, some days her spirit felt hollow, and the village never asked. They only admired her new clothes and said nothing else. One rainy evening she returned to Aduf on foot, thinner, quieter, older in the eyes than any child should be. She collapsed at her mother's door. The chief had sent her away, calling her weak and joyless, and only then did her mother cry the way she should have cried months earlier, holding a daughter already sleeping away. Morayo was sick, not just in body but in soul, and the village watched quietly as life left her slowly. The morning Morayo died, the rooster crowed as usual, but something was missing. Her small voice did not answer. Women wailed, men shook their heads, someone said it was God's will, but deep inside everyone knew the truth. Morayo was not killed by sickness. She was killed by silence, by tradition, by poverty, by the decision to trade a child for comfort. After she was buried the wind seemed to carry her name through the village. Morayo, Morayo, and mothers began to hold their daughters tighter. Some fathers refused offers wrapped in money. A teacher placed Morayo's old exercise book on a desk and said this is why girls must learn. But Morayo did not return. change had come too late. After Morayo was buried, Adolf did not return to normal. For the first time, the village became quiet in a different way, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that follows shame. Mothers began waking their daughters earlier, watching them longer. Fathers who once laughed at early marriages now avoided eye contact with their own children. Morayo's grave sat near the old mango tree, small and fresh, and every time the wind passed through its leaves, it sounded like a whisper that refused to die. Aya Morayo changed the most. She stopped going to the market early. She no longer argued with anyone. She spent most mornings sitting beside the grave, speaking softly as if Morayo could still hear her. "I was afraid," she would say. "I thought hunger was worse than pain. I was wrong." One afternoon, a man from a nearby village arrived with an offer. He had money. He wanted a young bride. The elders gathered as usual, but this time something happened that had never happened before. Aya Morayo stood up. Her voice shook, but it did not break. "There is no amount of money that brings a child back from the ground," she said. "If you take another girl, you will dig another grave." The village froze. No one laughed. No one argued. The man left. Weeks later, the teacher reopened the small classroom that had almost closed. Girls returned slowly, shy at first, then stronger. Morayo's old desk remained empty, but her exercise book stayed there, untouched, a reminder that someone once sat there and dreamed. At night, some villagers claimed they heard a girl humming near the mango tree. Others said it was only the wind. But everyone agreed on one thing. Adolf would never sell its daughters again. Morayo did not live long enough to see the change, but her short life became a warning carved into the hearts of those who remained. And in Adolf, whenever someone tries to choose money over a child, one name is always spoken first. If this story touched your heart, if it made you angry, sad, or thoughtful, do not let it end here. Like this video, share it so another village hears it, subscribe so more stories like Morayo's are told before they become graves, because sometimes all it takes to save a child is one voice choosing not to stay silent.